Hey guys, I have Root Sheth, actually chosen, if you're familiar with that from back in the Brood War days, and he's on Gosu Coaching staff, and I'm actually just going to sit in on a Gosu Coaching lesson here. That big battleship in the background is going to destroy the frame rates a second here, but don't worry about that. He's going to be coaching Blackjack, and I'm going to be doing initially a cast of their game and just pointing out some stuff as best I can, I guess, in just a flat cast. And then we're going to actually have Sheth go over more in-depth stuff to help improve Blackjack in his game. And then we're going to, I think, switch matchups. So initially we're going to have Terran versus Zerg, and I think we're doing Zerg versus Zerg after this, just to give you guys, first of all, some general helpful information for Starcraft and also help promote Gosu Coaching a little bit. So I'm going to hand it over to Sheth to give his general spiel, and we're just going to be more or less kind of flies on the wall during a lesson here.
All right, so like basically exactly what Diggity said. We're just gonna go ahead and start our lesson. We're gonna work on TVZ first. Does that sound okay with you, Blackjack?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I normally do to start a lesson is I watched both your replays, both the ZvP replays. I know now we're going into ZvT, but I wanted to talk a little bit about hotkeys. We'll go into it more when we watch the replay. But you've been using, you have both your hatcheries on one hotkey and both your queens on one hotkey.
Mm-hmm.
And you do the backspace trick, right?
Yeah, and I keybind it to my mouse actually too.
Gotcha. So if you want to try something now, or if you want to try it later, I find people have a lot of success with putting each hatchery on a different hotkey.
Okay.
And just not even hotkeying the queens. Or if you feel you really need the queens, what they do is they put all their hatcheries on one, and they just put each queen at a different hotkey.
I actually used to have all my hatches on one, and then I'd have my mains queen on 4, then my expo's queen on 5, and then my third on 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's how I used to do it. So I learned the backspace key. Or no, actually I did my first on my my mains queen on 2, and then my expo's on 5 through 7.
Gotcha. Well, the backspace, the only reason I don't like it, you actually seen it in one of the GSL matches, someone did it. If the hatch dies, or if for some reason the queen is a bit off or buggy, sometimes your queen can just attack. Like, I watched one Zerg lose 4 queens with full energy, and just basically GG'd, because there go all your macro mechanics at that time, so...
That, and I'm not gonna lie to you, sometimes on backspace, and my queen will start running off to another hatch, and then the other one will, I'm like, what are you guys doing? So then I get a box select, and it's annoying.
Exactly. And it's probably hard for you to get to it hatch really quickly.
Yeah,
as well.
for sure. I gotta hit backspace 50 times to make sure I get to the right one.
So, back to the meat of the discussion. What we do here, part of the lesson, is we'll go ahead and play a game first. Afterwards, we'll look at the replay. And first of all, what do you have the most problems with versus Terran?
I think the contain. I think I need to learn how to bust a contain, because it seems like every Terran I play at my level is containing, and they always contain with either an early Marine SCV push with bunkers, or it's either a siege tank contain kind of mid game, or something similar to that. So it always seems like a contains that I gotta bust out of.
Okay. Then what I kind of want you to do is just do your normal build order, and we'll go ahead and tweak it when we watch the replay. But I think, yeah, just go ahead and do your normal replay. I'll try and contain. I'll do maybe both of those. I'll even start with early Marine SCV and go into a Marine tank contain, and just do what you normally do. We'll eventually get to the tank thing. I won't necessarily kill you with the Marine early pressure.
All right.
Even if I can.
All right, sounds good.
So any questions before we start?
What would you like me to do with my hotkeys?
Okay. Well, you've been using, I believe, 1 and 2 for units, 3 and 4 for hatches.
No, I've been using 3 and 4, 3 ground units, 4 air units, and 5 special units.
And 1 and 2 for hatches?
1 hatch, or 1 all my hatches, and 2 all my queens.
Okay. And okay. How do you feel about either 1 all your hatches and then 2, 3, 4 queens? And what I do personally is I do 1 through 4 hatch, and then I'll do 5, 6, 7 units. And just the basic thing, you always want to put your banelings on a different hotkey than your normal attacking units, and the reason for that is your normal attacking units are always going to be A move, like you're going to A click and it'll attack. Banelings, you just want to move them. You don't want them to attack.
Okay.
So that's why you put your banelings all separately. I don't know. What do you think would work the best for you with your normal hands being there? Because you want it to still be, fairly consistent with what you used to do.
Yeah, I think if so, you don't think like binding all my hatches on one key is good?
I mean, like I told you, the reason why it's kind of not that good when you have all the queens together is you can't get to a hatchery to look there
Yeah, quick
quickly.
enough.
And like if a banshee's there, a dropship's there, it's really helpful to be able to just click a button.
Yeah. So do you think then maybe I could go like 2, 3, 4 units and then one like all my hatches and 5, 6, 7 my all like my hatches separated, if you know what I mean. So then I don't know. I guess I think I'm so used to like the 1S and then whatever I need. You know what I'm saying? Instead of having to go like 1, 5, 6 and just you know what I'm saying to go
Hmm.
through all my larvae. But I don't know. Whatever
Well,
you think's best.
well, for now, just for these practice games, why don't you keep your old style?
All right.
And that way, you'll have a pretty solid game, and then afterwards, we'll go ahead and work out which hockey is the best.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right, so ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and mute our mics because if we talk, usually builders all get messed up,
Of course.
and it's horrible.
Makes
And
it a
we
lot
can,
easier for me as well. If you
yeah.
guys mute yourselves.
I was just gonna say we can get back to the star of this show, Diggity.
Psh,
That's the
whatever.
Diggity. All right, so my mic is now muted. Have fun. Good luck.
Yeah, have fun. Good luck.
All right, so now we're going to get on. You're going to have to wait for the 10-second opening screen. So if you guys are, again, unfamiliar with Sheth, he was really one of the best Zergs in Brood War, was on Team Light, was on more or less, I think he went to Twilight, Templars of Twilight, which was one of the top national outside of Korea clans. And he's always been a very, very proficient Zerg player. I think he's still Zerg standard in Starcraft 2. Terran is his off race, but he's still very, very proficient, at least proficient enough to kind of go over the basics with Blackjack here. And Blackjack, again, struggling a little bit, particularly in his ZvT and also ZvZ, particularly with the Terran contain. So I assume what we're going to see, just kind of, I guess, trying to metagame here, knowing about Blackjack and his difficulties. I think a lot of problems for Zerg, particularly early. And come on, you can keep going, bar. And hopefully it doesn't lock out on me and crash, because that would be really disappointing. One of the key things for Zerg versus Terran, particularly kind of the modern day bunker pushes and mid game early stuff. 9 o'clock position, we have Sheth as the purple Terran, by the way. 3 o'clock position looks like we have Blackjack as the red Zerg, and already he's having a little bit of trouble selecting his drones and getting into the mineral line, and that's probably a little bit of nerves beyond cast, which actually is probably going to help him out overall, and also a late start on his Overlord. Let's also check how he does the Overlord pathing, if he's actually going to bring it across the corner. And I wish I could, and I guess I'll just lock onto his view and see how he's coming across this as it goes. Well, I'll wait until it comes to it. And again, I am not pro. I don't think I've even done my placement matches thus far, so I can try to give as much advice as possible, but it'll be nice because Sheth will come in and correct it immediately afterwards. So even though he's saying, oh yeah, you're star of the store, Sheth definitely more the star of the show here. But anyway, getting back to it, I think Zerg players these days, against kind of the modern early Terran aggression, particularly with the bunkers, which is going to be difficult for Sheth to pull off. And I think he might opt to go more mech heavy, because mech tends to be pretty resilient on Metalopolis. Because really when you're going mech, what you need to worry about is, first of all, being able to utilize it in comparison to infantry. And I think having these nice ridges and having these ramps and things like that, and also having specifically siege tanks along this kind of corner where you can dominate the Zelnaga watchtower, really spot a lot of that area, kind of box your opponent in with mech, a little bit more useful. And also there's a close by third that you can utilize to work with mech, and really it's about getting starved out when you're talking about basically just keeping up production, versus infantry where it's more about having just a gigantic regenerative force that you can run out with a big ball that Zerg has to deal with. And it looks like that Overlord just kind of sitting to the north after not seeing anything. Doesn't look like it's continuing its scouting pattern. Blackjack already just kind of patrolling. It looks like he's thinking about doing an opening hatch, which he should be able to pull off at these distance locations. I know that a lot of Zerg players have been sticking to one base play because of a lot of the Terran aggression, but again, at these cross positions, it should pull off for him. And it looks like after not seeing anything close position, he's thinking, okay, I know I'm not facing a close position opponent. Let me go ahead and go for something a little bit more economy based. Instead, actually, never mind, take it back, going spawning pool. Quite a bit late on that spawning pool as well. And he's losing actually a lot of mining time with this drone that has minerals in his hands. But it looks like he's just camping down here with this drone to provide scouting information, see SEVs and things like that. And again, might be a little bit of nerves coming alongside as well. Let me bring up the production tab. Sheth just doing kind of a straight opening. Looks like I missed Blackjack sneaking in and doing that gas steal, which is going to force Sheth to do a little bit more of a, oh, nope, canceling it there and rebuilding it. Didn't need to rebuild it. unless he was planning on canceling and doing some more ground scouting with that drone. He maybe perhaps planted that extractor a little bit early on Sheth. I wasn't here to quite see it, and it looks like a Marine going to wander up and take that extractor. That's also going to prevent Blackjack from canceling and additionally moving it out, and it's really kind of silly to do that cancellation because he's losing some minerals there as well. Now he's just going to leave it on that forward, but that would delay any sort of additional kind of tech building, and it looks like he might have decided to do that because he was boxed in as well. So it looks like a second barracks is being planted from Sheth, so I think he's going to go. It's possible we'll see 2 barracks command here, but because I'm not seeing a tech lab planted, and usually when you see a higher dedication to tech labs, but it's also possible we'll see that 2 barracks bunker push that's been very popular lately. In the meantime, Blackjack does have his hatchery up at his natural secondary, Sheth, with a decent amount of scouting information. Spawning pool, gas planted, and I feel like this gas is really late. And that is one of the bad things. You really need to harvest gas quickly and being kind of on top of gas as a Zerg player, or you need to invest a lot more heavily in spine crawlers, and that's going to bring me to the next point. The way Zerg have been kind of overreacting at this stage versus kind of the Marine, because really the trick of, and it looks like 3 barracks, so definitely some sort of Marine infantry based push now for Sheth, 4th barracks planting. Looks like he's actually going to go all in Marines off 1 base, or do some pressurized thing and maybe try to, once he has map control, kind of contain it from there. Queen idling down here doesn't have really a lot of energy to do anything, but really kind of the overcommitment for Zerg has been just producing too many Zerglings, speed Zerglings, and expecting speed Zerglings to get it done against Marines. And at a certain stage, when you have enough Marines on the ground, it's not going to get it cut unless you're diving and catching those Marines out of position on a move command with some other support, and they tend to be a bit too greedy, and either they don't plant any spine crawlers at all, or they do not plant enough spine crawlers, which is really what needs to happen, or you need to see a push tech to Baneling Nest. And I do like to see the Baneling Nest planted. It feels a little bit at an awkward time though. I think it should have been actually before speed, the kind of the time he's planting it here, but he does have this additional hatchery out. Has that queen sitting at the front so he can do some additional spawning larvae. And actually, if he's really worried with not getting any additional suicide scouting, and this is actually the stage where he really wants to send up a drone or something like that, or even a Zergling, where it counts to, and actually I don't see any initial Zerglings that he's been produced, because, and this is the thing, you always want to have at least 2 Zerglings out in the field. Even if that SCV has left your base, you always want to have some Zerglings, so you can see this sort of action right here. And he doesn't have anything in the Zelnaga Watchtower. He never tested the front door to check how many Marines were coming out. Looks like he did see that moving out with that Overlord, and it looks like now he's producing a ton of Zerglings to try to cope with this. But this is a lot of stuff that he's not producing with his economy, and I think Sheth actually has the raw, and he has speed as well, and I think Sheth actually has a raw count of Marines where he can really kind of cope with this without even really micromanagement. And as long as he keeps that ball like that, the Marines aren't really going to work out. Banelings are being produced, but he's going to end up taking a lot of economic damage in the meantime. This is all about small timing things at this stage. Sheth, and again, kind of a lack of scouting, and again, he needed a spine crawl on the front door to help support this. And he didn't, and now he's kind of panicking a little bit and way overproducing on Zerglings, and it looks like Sheth is sensing it. He's going to back up. He's actually going to, and I love the positioning by Sheth, and this shows you just kind of experience. It looks like he is taking his command center now. He actually went up to a nice kind of choke area, so if there was an overcommitment by Blackjack to that, he could have maybe put some troops and kind of funneled troops in. He probably would have died to some Banelings immediately after that, but he could have inflicted more damage essentially, and actually didn't take out a queen, but really Blackjack did damage to himself with an overinvestment of Zerglings early, unfortunately. And now we'll actually bring up the economic tab. You'll see that even though he's ahead in harvesters, Sheth is, and actually that's because he's at 2 expansions. Keep in mind, he had that expansion for a long time. You'd expect more over time. And Blackjack deciding to expand here. And this is kind of, and he might actually pull this off just because Sheth, I don't think he's scouting this, but you can see all these Marines from Sheth. Sheth technically has map control here, and fortunately he's just kind of getting lucky here on this scout, and I think this is one of those stages where Blackjack is like, oh wow, I've got a ton of minerals, I don't have enough gas. He's trying to get some additional gas now. What am I going to spend it on? Well, I'll spend it on additional hatcheries, which I guess if you're in that situation, not a bad thing to do, but nevertheless, very risky take. I do like how he's spreading the creep, and this is honestly one of the things I think Zerg neglect the most is creep spreading. Really, creep is your lifeblood. It provides additional mobility, it provides almost everything. And now Sheth looks like switching up. He's going to get some of that factory out, after applying that early pressure, he's got some tech labs to get his upgrades. Probably, yeah, he has a reactor alongside, so he's going to get the medevacs, he's got the starports, he's going to get some siege tanks, and probably approach him and do some damage. And it looks like some exploratory Zerglings now coming up. They have cleared that Zelnaga watchtower. Perhaps too many Zerglings really committed there. And really, you only need one Zergling on the Zelnaga watchtower. Otherwise, these guys, if just imagine a group of these Marines starting to push up in that siege tank, all of these Zerglings would die instead of just one, unless Blackjack is right on top of it and pushes out very, very quickly, also getting a Spire alongside. He's actually pretty far ahead in the just flat economic count, but when you look at kind of the army composition difference, you'll see that Sheth is way ahead. And really, the only thing keeping Blackjack alive at this stage is the fact that Sheth is playing passively and not attacking. And this is where, and really I got to say the big thing right now is scouting. Yeah, there's Zerglings checking out the third, but really where you need some Suicide Zerglings or even a Suicide Overlord in the back to check out what the Terran's doing at this stage, to get a good eye on what his supply count is, what his unit composition is, kind of what he's up to. And right now, yeah, he's going to have a Spire, but this is actually where he might want to be going Infestors to kind of cope with Marine tank-heavy army, basically. And there he did something good, but I think he ended up losing all of those Zerglings over to the north instead of just sacrificing a single Zergling, and every unit counts. Got a pretty good look, but this is where he really needs to think about, again, yeah, getting Infestors out. Looks like he's getting centrifugal hooks to provide some defense. Sheth actually producing a couple more Marauders to absorb some of those damage, and the tanks actually will be able to absorb that attack as well. And I assume Sheth, as soon as he has these additional 2 medevacs, he's actually going to push out, and I don't think Blackjack is really going to be able to cope right here, because it looks like he's still, just a second behind, trying to get Mutalisks out in the field. Nice concept by Sheth, seeing absolutely no army there. The army's actually positioned here a little bit to the north, kind of out of position. And yeah, it looks like he's unsieging and preparing to move out. And usually this is a big indicator. When you see the medevacs out in the field, you see the medevacs starting to group up, you know that a Terran is going to start getting aggressive, and he's going to take that northerly route. Once again, not a lot of scouting in position. Looks like very lucky for him, Sheth did not take the northern route. Instead, he's going the southern route right underneath his Overlord, trying to get some Mutalisks out, but Mutalisks aren't really going to do a lot to this army. Again, Infestors really would do a lot to this with the fungal growth to pin the Marines in. Looks like the Mutalisk is going to try to back up, but Sheth already has a turret that he can build, and you can also get some additional Marines out. Johnny on the spot. Oh, the Mutalisk's running right back overhead, and that's some additional damage. And that's just a mechanical thing and spotting issue where he's got a bad rally point and is losing all sorts of stuff, which is painful to watch. And now Sheth can just kind of bowl through everything. This is another problem right here, is the freeze up. Is like, oh crap, things aren't going well, and he's forgetting to macro on the production tab. And really, when action's happening, when you're in a bad position, this is not something I do well, by the way, because I too am pretty noob. Need to keep producing, need to keep building drones, need to keep producing stuff. And right now he's just got Banelings morphing, and he's got plenty of bank, but a little bit in brain lock mode. And it takes a while to get over brain lock, but it's important to recognize it and deal with it. Now some Zerglings running in, and the Zerglings he's doing a great job there, actually, letting the Zerglings take the initial damage, running in, and then letting the Banelings do the follow-up finish. So that was actually a really nice engagement, I have to say, and got a lot of impact out of it. Unfortunately, he's still significantly behind in army count, and his harvester count, he's lost his third. His harvester count's not doing well, and it looks like Sheth is going to start pushing up and is moving up to take the contain, probably up here rather than just ending the match. But he's got a significant army where he probably could, and letting the medevacs scout overhead, because he realizes, hey, not much of a air threat currently to cope with me. No Infestors on the ground, so I don't need to worry about it. And the Banelings blowing up all over the Marauders right there, and they perhaps needed to be in a different position to start this engagement, which really what it comes down to right there with the siege tanks in that back. And this is where Burrow can really help out as well. But now that natural expansion getting encroached on, going to get absolutely crushed. There's nothing that's going to stop this army as far as the composition that Blackjack has. And yeah, he's getting absolutely overrun and is now locked down to, even if Sheth decides to play a lock game at this base, he's expanding. In the meantime, actually bringing an army across the north just in case there's an expansion there. And really what it comes down to a bit is macro at the stage. I got to give it to Blackjack. He didn't do too terrible. particularly playing against an opponent like Sheth and biting down, went after the Marauders first rather than looking for the juicy Marines and retreating them. Gonna GG there, and we're gonna move into the QA session. Hope you guys enjoyed it. A little bit more attempt of an informative cast. Gonna go over it more in depth with Sheth momentarily here. Hey guys, this is the second portion here. We're all gathered up on our replay and all paused at 0, of course. And I gotta say, no offense to Blackjack, you didn't play your best, obviously, but I think it was very brave of you to play on stream in this kind of manner. And I think that messed you up a little bit. And now I'm going to hand it over to Sheth to just kind of cover, I guess, the standard Gosu coaching session.
All right, so to continue with our lesson then, so you're queued up. We're both at the same replays, all synced. Usually I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, go, 3, 2, 1, pause. Did you have any questions before we started?
No. Well, no. I'll wait until we go on and
Okay.
learn more. Before I start asking questions.
Feel free to stop as well. Like just pause or 3, 2, 1, whatever you think is best.
Right.
And ask questions. It's how you learn.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the best way to learn, really. All right. So ready?
Mm-hmm.
3, 2, 1, go. We have it at faster ×2. Seems you were AFK a little bit early because
No, actually, I was freaking out because it wouldn't let me do anything in the game. I don't know. It was weird. Like I was looking at it, but I had like the Microsoft cursor, and it wouldn't let me do anything. But
weird.
Still a nice little split there. So.
It's all good. I like your first scout. You kind of want to eventually form a box, kind of, where that first one's gonna go that way, and then it's gonna go down, and the other one's gonna go first this way, and then it should go up, and it's gonna kind of form somewhat of a box, but we'll go into that more later.
All right.
You scout. Actually, let's go ahead and pause. 3, 2, 1, pause.
Okay.
What's the main idea behind scouting right now, if I could ask?
Well, for me, I feel that scouting early is A, finding out where he is, and B, kind of scouting if it's early pressure or not. Like, I can kind of tell if you're like, maybe I can see that you're like trying to Macarax me somewhere, or like I can see that, or I think maybe I can get a count on your units, or I can see if you're going double gas for heavy tech. There's lots of things I think I can find out.
Okay.
Early orbital command like you did, so.
Do you find a lot of times that you kind of get to the base and you're like, okay, I need to keep this drone around a bit because there's not really much going on?
Yeah, a lot. I feel like that a lot of times, sometimes actually. That's why I think I should scout a little bit later. But
Quick interruption. What timestamp are you guys at?
We're at
203.
Yeah,
Let me get up to
exactly where I'm
203.
at.
I realized I was behind because I was playing it faster instead of.
Oh, sorry, Diggity.
There we go.
Yep,
My fault.
faster ×2.
No, let's go.
You're probably like, what is he talking about?
What
dude?"
is going on? Is that a drone? No,
Drone,
go ahead.
what?
You're good. Go. You're good to go.
He's still AFK. This is ridiculous.
Alright, so to continue on, what I do is I expand, and right after I've expanded, or even right before I've expanded, it's around either 13 or 14 that I'll scout. And I think you should try it. It doesn't really change much if you see it. For instance, you're still going to get to see the early barracks, like if I do double barracks or whatnot, and you won't get there early. Like, for instance, if you're going to my base right now with that drone, you'd just see
much.
You wouldn't see that much. You'd see me taking gas and me having a barracks. And definitely when you scout, make sure you check the gas as well. So if you see no gas, kind of expect a second barracks either hidden somewhere in their base, or even if they're just going one barracks expand.
When do Terran normally get their gas? 14?
13 I think is normal. I was
Okay.
1 slow because my first game with Terran of the day, so
Yeah.
I have a little bit excuse on early build order mess ups.
I want to comment on one thing here is this Blackjack, you took your Overlord to the north and then you set it there. He didn't move from that spot after this for quite some time. And that becomes important.
I caught it late. Yeah, I caught it late. I should have moved. I think I should have moved him down, right? Like right away.
And also, depending on how you're planning on doing it, some Zerg, like, I feel like the best thing to do on this map in particular is if you take that Overlord and you actually put it a little bit more of a narrow angle, you can catch the corner of a command center and you can look and see it when they can't see you because of the distances. A lot of people know about that. And then what you can actually do is a lot of Terran will build right at their ramp. In fact, exactly how Sheth is building. And what you can do is you can actually bring that Overlord a little bit further and just to the kind of along that southern edge, and you move the Overlord into position so it can just see the top corner of that ramp. So you can kind of see what's going on.
Okay.
And then additionally, what you can use, you can pull your Overlord out, and then you can also rescue it if they get too aggressive or maybe even pop the front door open with a couple Zerglings later on. But essentially what you can do is you can get a lot more information over a period of time, and you're not revealing your position as a result. If you just dive your Overlord in like you did, he would know immediately, okay, now I can adjust my scout, but you can actually force him to waste some time by taking a narrow angle and also get a lot of additional information.
Another little add-on to that is even with Protoss, sometimes you don't have to even bring that Overlord all the way in. You'll see kind of a spike out of the heavens, and it's just them chrono boosting their Nexus.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can see that too.
Yeah, I think cause like, I don't know, I think the angle would help a lot. Like, cause like honestly, like I kept going back and forth to my Overlord to see like, see if you were gonna be there, and then as soon as I saw you, I was gonna try to pull you back, but once I saw that, I got lazy and I didn't move it down like I should have.
All good. Let's go ahead and keep going. Gotta get out of the 2-minute mark. So, 3, 2, 1, go. All right. So. Question, or go ahead.
I was gonna say that patrolling is me being paranoid. That's what that is. Just
when you take your your spawning pool first, you really don't have to worry that much about this. Like I wouldn't even say patrol until you've thrown down your hatchery, because most Terrans, they'll see the pool first and they'll realize they really can't bunker your natural as well. And even if they do bunker your natural, you kind of were playing one base anyway. So it's not going to hurt you that much. You can get either banelings or roaches to break it.
Yeah, I got my expo really late. I should have got it at 16.
Also, if you're going to plant that extractor, just leave it, because you cancel it, and that actually costs you resources.
Okay.
And you might want to do it a little bit later as well, because you can actually dodge around and kind of use it as if you are going to plant the extractor to try to mold the Terran build towards a certain direction, which is really what that's about. Wait a little bit, I guess, and Sheth can comment on that.
So let's go ahead and pause. 3, 2, 1, pause.
Okay.
So a few things we can mention already here. Like you said, your expansion was a little bit late. So just a little bit to tweak your build order. Do you know how drone larva mechanic works?
Like, what do you mean by that? Perhaps.
I'm sure you do.
Like 16 minerals.
No.
Is that what you're referring to?
No, I mean like if a hatchery has 3 larvae, it's not going to make any more larvae.
Oh, yeah.
But if it has more than 3, it's not going to make larvae. But if it has less, it's obviously going to be making larvae. And larvae are really an important resource that you want to have. So a lot of the tricks for early game is you can have 2 larvae all you want. Because especially this build, you want to get your queens up earlier and your expansion up even earlier. Your expansion up should be like your #1 priority after making sure you're not dying to marines and everything.
Yeah.
So you also had that early drone scout. And so another thing, even with your 13 hatch or 13 scout, a lot of times you can check and see if the Terran's attacking or not. And if they're not attacking, like if you can see from their drone that they're not doing anything, they're chasing your drone around or something, you definitely don't have to just have that drone going back and forth on the ramp half as much, because you know they're just playing passive.
Yeah. Okay.
More minerals.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, camping larva. Yeah, I know all about that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about though when you're referring to that. Like I said, that's first game of the night. I guess I could say I'm gonna blame it on that.
That's
even though it's
okay.
really not. Even though it's really not that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No big deal.
Find my out.
Also, with your second queen, or with your first queen and your second spit, are you planning on planting a spawn creep tumor?
Yeah, and it started really late. I'm supposed to. Well, in my world, I'm supposed to start my queen as soon as this one finishes, and then I spit on the hatch, and then as soon as I spit on the hatch, I take her to the edge of the creep, drop my creep tumor, and then bring her down to the expansion. And by the time my larva pops, I have my other queen out. And so. Yep,
that's exactly what I was going to suggest you do. That's how you should do it. The other thing I always recommend is, first of all, I would get a couple Zerglings, maybe 2, 4. You've seen now that I'm not really doing anything early aggressive, but you're gonna want those few Zerglings to just put them in front of my ramp and see if I'm leaving. You want to pop them up the ramp and down every once in a while, because you want to see if I have like an army up at front, or even if you can see other buildings. Like this time, you'd probably see 2 barracks and like 4 marines. And I will say that the builder I did here was kind of confusing because I took gas early. And normally no one will go 4 or 3 barracks when they take their gas early. The only reason I did it was because that was what I said I was going to do against you. and you took my gas. And you have to think when you take someone's gas, you're forcing them to go mineral heavy, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you do that, you have to be able to be ready for a lot of Marines or even a fast expansion very early.
I think I don't remember when you attacked me, but like I think I actually messed up this build. Like I'm supposed to have at least like I think how's this build? Like I think I'm supposed to have at least I think like 40 speedlings by the time I think your first attack got there. By about 7 minutes, I should have about 30 zerglings with my build.
Okay.
And I think I completely just messed it up. A with the
I didn't
expansion,
actually didn't
the
realize that's what
queen.
you were going for. I thought you had actually scouted the attack and you were panic building Zerglings.
No, actually, like that's actually what I was going for because I wanted to attack. Like I kind of wanted to, like, because what my plan is at first, like, it's kind of like a way to defend against a 4 gate too, but it doesn't really work once you play higher because they just go Zella heavy. But like, I get a lot of speedlings out. I get 16 on both my main and my expo. And I get Zergling, like I drone to 36, right? And then I get a lot of Zerglings up to about 60, 65. And then I defend your first wave because usually a Terran will come at me with something. And then I go scout and attack and try to just kind of harass as much as I can with those, kind of just get map control with those Zerglings. That's what I like to do. Granted, sometimes I don't need that much, but I think that would be my lack of scouting. I could probably drone up a little bit higher if if I were to scout more. But I think that's more like me just being more defensive and just not droning at the right time.
Okay. So what I'd like, that I think will help a lot, is just making when you submit your first larva, when your pool is done, making one of those two larva zerglings, and if you put them in front of my base, a lot of times you'll see I'm either going marine heavy like this, and then of course that build's good, but if you see a factory with reactors,
It sucks.
yeah, you'll know you have to change it up,
Go
and
roach.
yeah, something a lot of people do is they'll go ahead and leave all three of their drones on gas while they get
Mm-hmm.
roach. Although I find that if you're going roach very early, it helps to only put two on gas, take one off,
Okay.
and just you don't need that many roach. Another thing I've been doing instantly against Terran is whenever your expansion's up, I'll go ahead and make a spine crawler. There we go,
There you go.
a spine
Yeah.
crawler over there, and
In the
that can
mineral line or in the front?
in the front of your
Depending.
natural.
Okay.
On some maps, you might have to make two. Like this one, you'll probably have to make one maybe to the left front, one to the, back front
Yeah.
to protect a run around sort of thing.
I'll also say another thing for Zerg players at large, from a commentator's perspective. The Zerg who are successful, generally when they're sneaking in their larva and building their larva, they're doing so because they have good, solid scouting. And they're dashing the Zerglings in, they see there's only a couple Marines in the front, and they have enough information with what's in hand that they feel like they can safely build drones. Or they see a large army and they're like, okay, now I can build Zerglings. Right now, if you just put your map up, you really don't have any information on its base at all.
Yeah.
Which is why I think even just two Zerglings early is very important. Not necessarily because you're going to kill units with them, but because you're going to get gold mines of information. Even if you just have one Zergling out on the Zelnaga watchtower and a second one just testing that front door, just keeping an eye on how many Marines are out there lets you know how many drones you can sneak in and how many Zerglings or whatever you're going to need to build, or if you need to start planting. Like if you just all of a sudden saw 80 Marines flooding out of his base, you need to get a ton of spine callers down or you're going to die, and it keeps you in the match.
Okay. Yeah, I used to do that. Like, well, what I used to do, like, I don't know, like my build's kind of changed a little bit. I think for the worst, actually. Like, because I used to actually do, I used to make 4 speedlings, or 4 zerglings, and get control of both towers, and have one planted right, like, kind of like right outside, like the root of where he would be going to my base, and then one right outside of his base. So I know when he's moving out and how far he's moving out, and so on. But I don't know. I haven't done that anymore, which is bad. So
Sheth can comment on this, but I feel like Zerg, more than the other two races, is the most scouting dependent race. They need to have the most map information at any given time in order to be successful. That's just kind of, Sheth can agree or disagree with that statement.
It's definitely very important. I'm sure I think it's equally important for everyone, but it's definitely very important for Zerg. I'll agree with you there.
especially
So,
early game, I think, right?
well, it's really for any time in the game because if you think about this like a chess game, and I don't want to go too much into early game because this isn't really helping you too much, but there's obviously hard counters for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Banshees, they're gonna get countered by either queen spore crawlers, maybe with an overseer. So if you know that's coming, you can hard counter it. You can even, you won't lose much to it. If you don't see it coming and you go Roach, obviously Banshees are counter to Roach. The same thing with, if you see a bunch of Marines only, that's going to kill just a bunch of Zerglings. That's going to kill a bunch of Queens if you thought he was going Banshee. But it's going to die to Banelings, maybe even Roaches. So just some things to think about. That early game, you want to base what you do off what you see, not just, oh, I have this good build order I'm going to do. No, I'm not saying by any means don't get like Speedlings. Speedlings are a good core that no matter what the Terran goes, a few Speedlings or a few even just regular Zerglings, they help give you information, like putting them on towers, putting them in front.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you ready to keep going?
Yep.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. And I'm glad that you're using all your larvae. Like, you have minerals and you're making more drones. I'd rather see you have, I like what In Control said. He said something along the lines of, I'd rather have my students have 150 drones and then just, work from less drones. But, having so many drones is better than having like 5. So,
Yeah,
it's good.
that's for sure. I've always trying to like, that guy taught me count your drones, count your drones, count your drones. So
Gotcha. I like your overlord placements. The top one's a little bit risky where it's at, and so is the bottom one. Like I think I killed them both. It's
Yeah,
good that you're sending it in. Could have probably sent that in a lot earlier. Neither of them are gonna see what I'm doing here. But if you had a couple Zerglings in front of my base, you would have seen it coming. You have good timing with the speed. You could have even made a few Banelings. Never. Well, actually, it's pause. 3, 2, 1, pause. It's never a good idea when you see this sort of early Marine to just attack with your Zerglings if you're overpowered, obviously. But what I've seen a lot of people do that's working really well is if they think it'll work, they take all their Zerglings on one side and they take all their drones from the natural on the other, and they kind of just try to come around and come from both
sandwich 'em.
sides. So that's just something you can do if you're in this situation. It's not easy. At this point, I kind of just, poke and then run back because we're just practicing.
Yeah. Yo, I know you could have killed me then, and that's what, like, dude. Yeah, I see 743, and I have what 1, 2, 3, 5. I should have had so many more Zerglings. Like, I should have had 30 Zerglings by now.
It's okay.
Well, I don't know build.
Putting even down just one spine crawler early, like I said, that helps a lot too.
I actually thought we were in an entirely different build and was like, oh, he's going for speed instead of Baneling Nest first. So it confused me. But whatever. Anyway.
All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
3, 2, 1, go. So at this point, you've seen my tech. You know it's Marines, and you know I have a bunch of them. What are your thoughts on making a combination for like the middle end game?
Honestly, what I was planning on doing, because I figured you're gonna do what I've seen every Terran do and go Marine tank, which you did, and I was gonna do Zerglings, Banglings, and Mutas. Like I said, the only thing I really know about TVZ, and just try to make you pretty much do friendly fire with your tanks on your Marines.
Okay.
And attack, and then once all that friendly fire funness goes on, and then I was just gonna try to, focus fire your tanks down with my Mutas, but I played sloppy, so it didn't happen. I think I had like 8 Mutas that flew over your army, so.
It's okay. I see a lot here. You have just a lot of larvae left over.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're making them all drones. I like you're making them drones and not Zerglings. I think that's actually very good. But whenever you see you have extra larvae and you don't know what to do with them, just think either make them drones or Zerglings. Like if you don't have a plan, just make them so you'll get extra larvae, so you'll spend some of that minerals because you have quite a bit. Even throwing down a third hatch. I don't know if you're generally this little bit sloppy, but
oh yeah, I'm never this sloppy, so.
Yeah, your replays were really good. They're a lot better than this.
Yeah, I don't even know what. I think I was more worried like the fact that like I started off and like my whole computer just kind of was stupid. I was like, okay, whatever. So
that's okay. So actually, let's go ahead and pause. 3, 2, 1, pause. Again, like just something that Diggity brought up. If you go back to vision, like just your vision, you have very little knowledge of what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, I have actually no knowledge. I don't even know you have an expo up yet.
Exactly. So by keeping 1 or 2 Zerglings in front, you'll know that's what's coming. You'll be able to see, what's going on. Put one on each tower is a big help. All those things would have helped quite a bit. And just places that you put your overload on this map. Do you see my natural base where the minerals are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could put it behind there, right?
No, actually, that doesn't fit. What you have to do is you kind of have to bring it all the way around the edge of the map and
Mhm.
just kind of put it up top above the expo. And if you ever want to see if I have the expo, you kind of run it down a bit, and then you can kind of run it back up so the Marines don't kill it.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
The other one, if you want to scout my base, you're kind of the one overlord by the Zelnaga Tower to the left.
Yeah.
It's if you just brought it right in, right to the left, you'd be able to see what's going on my base. You'd know if I was going tanks or whatnot, and that would be good too.
Additionally,
Even
sorry, go
uh,
ahead. I guess I'll go. Also, if you are going to scout with Zerglings at this stage, you don't need to commit all 6. Just
Yeah,
2
you
will
saw
be
that.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw
I think that might have been a nerf thing too. And also, you had, I think, all 6 camped at the Zelnaga Watchtower, which was, you would have lost all 6 had Sheth been kind of camping in that territory, rather than just a single one.
Yeah,
Which I think
I think
I mentioned in the original cast. But it's, if you are doing Zergling scouting, you don't need all 6 to do it. You can do 1, and they're much more useful when they're kind of in the background, where you can kind of direct them where you want to be placing from here. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. That's good. The other thing, like right here, when you're deciding exactly to get mutas or not, and how many banelings, how many zerglings, a lot of what you have to worry about is what my composition is. Like clearly, if I'm going Thor Marine, you know that maybe you shouldn't go muta. So
yeah.
by sending in like even this overlord, even if you don't send an overlord, make an overseer, and just send it right in. If you lose 50 minerals, 100 gas, it's okay. And you'll know what I'm doing, and you can change. And sometimes you'll see that I have a lot of missile turrets as well. If you see a bunch of missile turrets, there's really very little reason to make the mutas other than to kill the dropships. So what I recommend is you should still get the Spire, and you should probably still make a few mutas to prevent dropships, but I like getting Infester first.
Infester, okay. I don't
Infester.
use Infester much for Terran, even though I should for fungal growth, but
It's a pretty
okay.
interesting unit, especially versus tanks. Like once you fungled the Marines, you can throw a few infested Terrans on the tanks or even onto the Marines, and the splash damage will do a lot of damage as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's what's known as a force multiplier. Once you have that fungal growth down, those banelings get 20 times more effective because you have units pinned to the ground. They're not going to be able to dodge. Your opponent isn't going to be in a real situation where you can throw other units in front to protect them. Once you have fungal growth, they're stuck. And really, Terran it sucks when they're stuck and out of position like this.
Okay.
Just even one fungal growth, and that's the thing. It's very rarely will you see even a high level Terran with like 2 groups of Marines. You'll see them all on one hotkey. You'll see them all just bunched up right there, just sitting, waiting to get growth all over. And just one fungal growth, 3 banelings, and they're set back so far behind.
Okay. All right. That's great. I remember that.
The other thing I would like to see a bit earlier, like especially if you have that many minerals, it just pays to be safe. You can go ahead and get like 4 queens, and use the extra ones just to spread creep everywhere. It'll help you against early banshee, and don't be afraid to get more queens, especially if you have that much minerals left over.
Okay.
All right, so let's keep going. I'm gonna go back to everyone division. 3, 2, 1, go. Here, still very little knowledge. If you'd scouted, you would have been able to see, oh, he's going tank marine, with a few drops or a few medevacs, and you know that you can make mutas and be pretty solid. Or not, or infester. Either one works fairly well.
This is actually a critical time where you could have seen the upgrade on the combat shield as well to know that, oh man, mutalisks are going to get boned in this situation.
Yeah, I know about that. That's for sure.
It's okay. And once again, if you had a Zergling or so in front, and if that Overlord, you could even send it in earlier, or just letting it die is obviously painful. And clearly here you got some mutas. They're a bit out of position.
Terribly, because I went to go harass. They're terribly out of position. And they all
Yeah.
fly over you. Like, that's
Yeah.
cool.
I think you lost 8 mutas there. It's obviously a bad thing, losing all your gas. So let's go ahead and pause. 3, 2, 1, pause. Something again I noticed there was you just had all your army together on one hotkey. And like I said earlier, if you put the banelings on a separate hotkey, you can use them to move. And just say right here, hypothetically, you have those Zerglings that you have right there. You also have the banelings that I killed, so like 10 banelings, and you have the 10 mutas I killed, right?
Yeah.
What you can do here that would probably kill this attack, and it's difficult to do, I assure you it's not easy. If you leave the banelings on one side and you bring, just say, the mutas and the Zerglings from behind, go ahead and kill those 4 tanks, and then go ahead and attack, and then just bring the banelings from the other side. and
So,
just move them into the Marines.
so like a 2 attack. Yeah, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Like a 2-side attack. Yeah,
A
I
flank.
know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, that would definitely have worked.
That's
Also,
okay.
yeah, whenever you see a marine ball of this size, this is something that you want to try to catch them while they're moving, or you want to try to, pincer them in, because this is what's known as critical mass. When you have equivalent numbers of Zerglings, even though one-on-one a Zergling will do pretty, or even two-on-one a Zergling will do pretty well against Marine. When you're talking about mass like this, because they're ranged, they're going to chew through a ton of Zerglings if you're just dashing them in heads up. Just because they have range, they have a ball, they also have the medevacs overhead. Just diving in heads up is not going to get it done against a ball like this. That's the strength of the Terran army.
And imagine a fungal. Wouldn't that look really pretty right here? Just
Oh,
plop.
gorgeous.
Fungal with some banglings. Yeah, it would look real nice. More than 14 units would look pretty nice too. But
All right, so let's go ahead and keep going. 3, 2, 1, go. Actually, let's go ahead and 3, 2, 1, pause. Pretty sure we've learned all we can from this replay. Do you have any questions so far in this replay? Or go ahead, questions? Anything?
oh no, no. I think I see everything you're talking about. So
All right, so if I had to pick a few things, like I think we should go ahead and play another ZvT, and I want you to get these things in your head. So I want to try it again, and if I had a few things that I'd like to see you work on, and it's rather difficult, but I'd like to see you get a third queen earlier, spending a little bit of minerals. And the other thing would be I want you to scout, like make sure you have the Zergling on the ramp, and make sure you send either an Overlord or an Overseer in my base. Those 3 things.
okay.
So if you do those 3 things, I'll consider it a win. So what were the 3 things? Can you remember?
Yeah, easily getting a third queen, using Zerglings to scout up in your base, and having a Zergling outside your base, right?
Yep, that's it. All right, so I'll go ahead and host up another game.
I will pause the casting here. Hope you guys have enjoyed it thus far. Hey guys, welcome to the second match now between Sheth, who's starting the 9 o'clock position, is the Purple Terran. 12 o'clock location, we have Blackjack, and Blackjack's going to try to incorporate everything he learned from Game 1 and kind of shift it up for Game 2, and we'll see if he tries the same build. I have a feeling he'll try to mix it up after the things he's learned. We'll see if he might flounder a bit just because he's perhaps a bit off. Did manage to get the drones off a little bit sooner. Let's see if he tries kind of that odd angle thing with the Overlord this stage. And I'm kind of curious if Sheth is going to mix up the build a little bit. If I think last time he was still planning on going a little bit more aggressive Marine, but I think he might have been aimed at maybe more 3 barracks or 2 barracks expansion. So basically simultaneous expansion pressure with Marines on the front door, which I think is what you'll see a lot more often out of Terran, and then just kind of reacting off that gas steal like Sheth is prone to. And it looks like we are seeing kind of angled with Blackjack. Doesn't look like he's quite close enough to see it. Let's see if he actually angles that Overlord in. But good fundamentally still. Doesn't look like he's scouting on 13 this time. He's going to scout a little bit later, and it could be he's forgetting a scout at this stage. Or perhaps he's just mixing up his build, but it looks like SCV's coming up, and perhaps he feels like, okay, I'm going to go pool first, I don't have to worry about it as much now that Overlord's should have caught that SCV. And the SCV's just going to hang out at that natural expansion and try to guard it there, and there's a spawning pool to follow this up. And let's see if he's just going to try to, he actually is not sending a scouting drone at all at this stage, now sending it on 13 after spawning pool. Used to seeing a little bit earlier in Metalopolis just because of the distances. So Sheth getting a gas alongside, looks like he's on his standard build. He might be able to seal this out actually on the front, but he built that supply depot off corner instead, so probably not going to get an opportunity. And let's see also this time if Blackjack decides to grab the gas to try to, and really if you're doing that as a Zerg player or any player, you're trying to mold your opponent into kind of a certain build order. And it looks like he does have this drone out. Doesn't this time, he is heeding a little bit of my advice. Like he's going to scout along the corner for maybe a hidden barracks or whatnot. If he is thinking about doing the gas steal, he's not doing it immediately, actually hiding the drone in the corner while he's going. Moving out to try to take that, and no Zerglings to start actually, and this is what I was kind of hoping to see, is more Zerglings early. And instead it looks like he's just going drones. Did manage to plant the hatchery under Sheth's nose though, so kudos there. Let's see if he's going to be able to escape with this drone now taking damage. It looks like it's going to sit in the corner and die a lone gruesome death, poor thing. Still, I think he got the information he wanted to. He saw the barracks, he saw the gas, he saw that there wasn't any additional barracks being planted, and it looks like Sheth is mixing up the build. He's actually going factory first this time. Let's see if he can get some Marines to the front. And looks like Blackjack is doing what Sheth advised and bring that Overlord around, but he needed to bring it around at kind of a higher angle and kind of camp it more in this region to do kind of that spotting. And you can camp this corner. He needs to be a little bit wary, bringing it a little bit too close here to kind of scout things out. And this is also a little bit early to have it at this position. It can really get kind of pushed out here, and usually you want to have it back and bringing it up when you think, oh, hey, I can utilize this now. Things like that. And usually you'll see your Terran opponent, he might risk pulling the Marines out. That's also where it helps to have additional Zerglings out, but he might end up losing a Marine to Zerglings otherwise if he gets a little bit too greedy. Sheth now hiding his own SCV in the corner. Second expansion is up. It looks like we do have the Queen up as well. As far as energy goes, I don't see, well, there's the Creep Tumor. And it looks like we are seeing kind of the similar thing. It looks like Blackjack executed it a little bit better this time. Now going to walk down to that hatchery. Overlord's still hanging out there. So he knows, at this stage, he knows, okay, it's not a fast expansion build. Looks like we're seeing 2 additional barracks from Sheth. Also grabbing a reactor to go actually Hellion first, rather than going Marine heavy or anything else. And it looks like a couple Zerglings starting to move towards the front. And this is where Blackjack, again, he only needs to commit 2 Zerglings. Doesn't need to commit, actually could just commit 1 Zergling. Let's see if he does it this time. And he is going to commit 1 Zergling to kind of scout the front. First thing he knows, no expansion. Second thing is nothing. I don't think he's run up and catch anything, but he will see these Hellions as they pop out. They should start moving out in just a second. Looks like Sheth actually is going to go for a 4 Hellion harass rather than anything else, and the Baneling Nest being built in the background. This is actually the stage where I think Sheth mentioned building a spine crawler on his front, and it looks like Blackjack actually not building that spine crawler. Now we're going to drop and see those Hellions, and those Marine actually going to be a Hellion and Marine push, but a good look, and that's, I should bring up the production tab, a good look on the front, and this is again where you would want to see more spine crawlers, perhaps earlier on the front, maybe even a second Queen drawing down to provide some additional support. But it looks like the speed upgrading and an upgrade to layer, and the Hellions there before the spine crawler, and granted they could have run up and done a lot more damage than this, and it looks like some Zerglings actually died along the way, at least I think they did. Yeah, several Zerglings died along the way, which isn't really going to hurt. That did provide some nice delay, but in the meantime those spine crawlers getting worked down, unfortunately. And this is the thing, Blackjack, having not seen an expansion, should have known, okay, a rush is coming, and should have been in a position where he can kind of cope with this. But unfortunately, playing against a coach level caliber like this, you end up having some trouble. Pulling some drones off the line, ooh, pulling drones not a good idea against Hellions, and Sheth is being very merciful there and not attacking that actually. And it looks like he's actually going to back off here a little bit and let Blackjack get his legs once again. And it looks like Blackjack missing Overlord, so he is going to be supply capped. And I think that might have been Overlord dying somewhere. It looks like he did manage to pull that Overlord out of the way in the meantime. Perhaps I got brushed off by a Marine. But anyway, it looks like Sheth, in a dominant position, probably could have won the game right there, but is going to instead seal back up, get some siege tanks, get some Marines out, and go for more a containment thing, which is essentially what Blackjack wanted to work on, is breaking containment. And part of, I think, a good way to break containment is creep spreading. And right now it looks like the creep colony, the creep tumors are spreading forward, but more creep tumors at this stage really help. In fact, I've seen a lot of Zerg, they'll actually get dual creep tumors to push it twice as fast, which I think is really helpful. Really nice. Overlord is diving in to get a good look at everything that's happening. So first thing, Blackjack is getting off the checklist here. And then let's see if he's getting that 3rd queen as well. Unfortunately, he's still at 2 queens. And he does have a lot of resources to build additional queens here. So missing, it looks like, the 2nd step. I don't even remember what the 3rd one is. That Overlord was worth the death because he saw a lot of Marines, so he knows it's rather Marine heavy. He saw the factory. He also saw a tech lab alongside, and so he has a pretty good idea of what the composition is he's going up against. And it doesn't look like he's experimenting with infestors, even though he has the lair. I think at this stage he might be floundering a little bit and thinking, well, crap, what do I do now? Which, you know, is pretty standard. A lot of these units gathering up at the natural expansion. Sheth waiting for the combat shield upgrade before he moves out. Now that the combat shield upgrade is finished, he's going to push forward, and that siege tech should be complete as he starts taking up residency towards the front door. The Zergling still not testing that, and I like that he had the Zergling actually a little bit closer, and he's continuing to kind of scout things out with Zerglings. Ooh, head-on attack, not good, particularly with Hellions there, without siege and not accomplishing a lot and backing off. Speed upgrade is there to help support, but let's see if he can execute a little bit better now with maybe a 2-pronged drone thing. Also doesn't have any banelings at this stage, which would have been infinitely helpful. Now getting the banelings, as you can see on that tab. And it looks like that natural expansion to get nope, not taken out. Sheth once again. Sheth the Merciful. Sheth the Merciful. But Blackjack kind of in a desperate situation. Also, he's making these banelings where they're not really going to be in a good position to be utilized, because a single siege tech here, and also other thing I want to point out, total lack of creep on this side of the map, and that's really going to not make the banelings as useful as they could be otherwise. And once again, retreating up the ramp. The ramp is not a safe place to go as a Zerg player. Your ramp creates a funnel for those siege tanks to have field days and for Terrans to absolutely have a party. Ramps are not your friends. There's the infestation pit. A bit late once again. We are getting some additional queens though, but I think that's in response to the other queens dying. That will bring up to a total of 3 though. So that'll be a nice boon. Now, Sheth, even with the small-sized army, more or less controls here kind of what's happening, and it looks like he's going to give Blackjack an attempt to kind of attack at this, but it looks like Sheth is just kind of picking things apart. This is actually one of those compositions where it would have been helpful to have some roaches, just 1 or 2 roaches even to deal with those Hellions. And again, creep spreading is absolutely huge here at this stage. Hatchery looks like it's just picked on health, and also, yeah, once the banelings are up here, again, Sheth being merciful, not actually taking a more of a forward position. Even with that forward position, though, and some scouting, like a dropship up overhead, looks like Sheth's taking expansion. It's just going to sit in the contain and try to force Blackjack into him and kind of do some things from there. That right there happens. They can just sit on the corner, damage units as they're running down. Again, that ramp does not make your units safe, but it looks like there is an infestor out in the field. Several infestors out. As soon as they have a fungal growth, we might see some fun action here. More Zerglings running down. And actually, I think a fungal growth, particularly on the Aliens and on the Marines, and actually now that Sheth has seen it, he's being smarter and being the consummate professional now that they've been revealed. He's spreading his units out to make it less effective. Much less effective. And ooh, nice actually, using the spawn egg to try to hit some of those siege tank units, or to force that siege to splash, which is actually another good maneuver. Not hitting pay dirt with it, and part of that is also, ooh, queens engaging. Looks like we're going to go back down beneath 3 queens. Let me bring up the unit tab, down to 1 queen actually. Yeah, and this is a difficult situation where it comes down to just, I think, positioning. Fungal growth did manage to catch to those Hellions, so nice play there. It's positioning right here. You got kind of a natural funnel, which you want to avoid a Zerg, and Blackjack is trying to use it as an advantage. And granted, there's no spotting up here, but it's, again, funnels are not your friends, Zerg. You want wide open spaces. Zerglings are a lot like cattle, where they like wide open spaces. Clever, though. He is managing to sneak around. Looks like he's going to go for a flank from behind. Maybe he's going to suicide in those banelings. In the meantime, it looks like the siege tank's now moving forward to take care of that hatchery. But, and oh, it's sad that he, oh, never mind, actually going for an attack on the front. But Sheth right on top of that, too. And I think I think this would have been better utilized as a surround attack. But now just getting kind of sieged in, Blackjack having some difficulty, and I think that's going to be GG perhaps after these banelings move in. Looks like he's trying to hide the banelings, and once again, this is all positioning and lack of creep, which are really, and you can see what Sheth was really concerned with is clearing the creep tumors to prevent that creep from going forward. I do like the changeling in that army to kind of scout, so now he knows exactly what he's up against. And if he had those oh, nice fungal, was able to get a good portion of that army if he had screened actually with the Zerglings first. And actually, even with them penned in, you can see with the fungal between that and some splash damage from the Zergling, able to clean that up. So fungal providing some nice support there. Looks like this infested swarm eggs are really going to help at dealing with what's left of these tanks. Actually, I think the Marines attacked Sheth's Marines attacked their own tank right there. And able to clean up a little bit of this, and now the drone's getting into the action. But still, game is handily going into the Sheth's favor. It looks like Blackjack was able to get a couple things, but not everything. And really, I think the big issue here was creep spreading, 3rd queen, and that's really it. I would say that 3rd queen was absolutely huge, and also the creep spreading. Yeah, I'm repeating myself at this stage. It's just kind of painful to watch. It's almost not even fair. And I'm wondering, let's see if Blackjack GG's here in just a second. I might even stop the cast a little bit early. But it looks like his main's getting encroached on. That is a huge ball of troops just walking right up there. And he has nothing to defend against this. There's GG. Moving on to the tutorial portion, by the way. So if we want to repeat that. Sorry. Everybody now is on the cast is like, what the hell happened? We're on to Q&A or advice portion 2 here. So go ahead and start there, Sheth.
Okay. Are we all set then?
Yes, we're set.
Okay, good deal. So again, let's go ahead and load it up. Again, a lot of what I was saying didn't quite happen right. A little bit earlier on the Overlord sacrifice, and a big thing, if you leave that Zergling in front of my ramp, if every once in a while you run it up into my base, and you kind of knew what I was doing from before. You know, I was going a bunch of Marines with a few tanks. So
Yeah, I think I kept forgetting because I was just so worried about my macro. I don't know. I think that's what I was worried about.
I do
okay,
think
good.
Even though you were late on the infestors and you weren't able to utilize them, do you see how the infestors were very helpful against that unit combination, though?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially, even though the Hellions weren't much, I like getting that out of there too. So I liked
Yeah.
all of it. And then Fungal and the Marines, I like that too. But
Gotcha. Alright, so yeah, like early on, if you would have seen the Hellions, you could have made a few roaches or even got that second spine crawler up real quick. On this map, I do recommend you getting a second spine crawler pretty quick if you don't know what the Terran's doing.
hmm
And also, spine crawlers are never a waste in StarCraft 2 comparatively to StarCraft 1, unless you're doing it with one of your first drones, obviously. But it's like, hey, first 5, let's build. Anyway, because you can actually, later in the game, lift them up, move them around. Don't feel scared to build a spine crawler, ever. If you were like, oh,
Okay.
crap. And particularly in the situation you were in, where you knew he was not expanding. You knew he wasn't expanding, because you had a Zergling right there for a long period of time. And time was kind of passing. Immediately you should be thinking, okay, let me put down a spine crawler, maybe even 2, because I know he's going to come at me.
Okay. All right.
Alright, so ready to go? 3, 2, 1, go.
I expanded right this time.
Good deal. Yep, well, watch your macro this time. Watch your macro. And like I said, we'll talk about hotkeys more later, but I do think if you tried maybe 1, 2, 3 hatchery, 4, 5, 6 units,
Okay.
I think you might like that more. And then just put every hatchery after 3 on 3,
Oh, okay.
you know?
Yeah, and just click the minimap.
I do it up to 4, but I mean, if it's hard for you to click 6 already, then there's no point in making it ridiculous for you.
Yeah.
It's just old Brood War habit for me personally. Good timing on the spawning pool. Improved vastly over the last spawning pool timing.
Oh god, dude. Hold on. I'm at faster. Where you at? Oops.
Oh, that's okay. I'll go ahead and pause. I'm at 2:30 exactly.
All right, hold on.
I'm at 2:33, so not too far off.
Quicker than me, Diggity.
I know.
Faster.
8 p.m.
Need to work out more. Darn it.
Rawr. Speaking of APM, 300. Yeah.
Oh, my APM.
Spam harder.
My average is 44, but you can't beat that.
One thing I
It's
will say
okay.
is on Metalopolis, sometimes it is better to send out a drone scout earlier, but that's just, I don't know. That's me and me being a newbie caster in that regard. This might be perfectly okay, but on the larger maps, I don't know. It feels like it's more important to scout earlier, particularly against Terran if they're going to go for a front door. Because Sheth didn't do it this time. He didn't go for that front door seal, but you'll see other Terran that sometimes do specifically to block out scouting early,
Yeah.
and then you're just sunk. You have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, that, and I lost him anyway, so like, still kind of had no idea, I guess.
This is true, but I'll give you another reason why it's not that important to do it that early. 9, you're gonna lose a lot of mining time early, which is when you need it. And if you scout the first time, like say right now, you're obviously gonna find me right away with this timing, and so at this timing, it would be like if you 9 scouted and you went to the second base, right?
Yeah.
So you get here, you get to see what's going on. Now say I'm not here, and you have to go to the other base. At that point, you already know it's cross positions, so any early aggression that he does isn't going to be that effective because he's so far away. And,
Okay.
and you'll see that early aggression when you go with the drone. I mean, that's why I like it, Diggity. It is just a personal preference.
No, that
but
makes total sense. Sheth is a genius. This is why we talk to him.
that is my reasoning behind it. A lot of others too. So, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. You didn't even say ready. My bad. Are you ready? Were you
Oh
ready?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always ready.
Cool. Cool. I figured you'd yell and be like, "No, I'm not ready." But just making sure.
I can't believe you plant this.
I know. I saw him patrolling outside of it, so I was
I
like, all right, well, I'm just gonna wait till he patrols away. So
I couldn't believe it either, but hey, it worked.
I kind of
Um,
sucked because I had my hatch already over it, and I was watching you like go in and out, in and out, and I was like, all right, well, I'll just try to time it.
Also,
perfect.
that top overlord in a little bit of a scary position there. You could have brought it in a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Oh,
Another thing I'd like to see you work on is make sure you make your first larva when you get the spawning pool into a Zergling.
Yeah.
okay.
First few.
Yeah,
That's
I was like,
very,
I
very
forgot
important
that.
scouting information. Like, here's an example. Like, if we're making this into war terms, it's basically like you got your army all set up, and then you didn't get any of them armed. You just made you made your little armory, and you got it set up. You didn't make any units.
Okay, I see what
Y-
you're saying.
It's
And you
also,
gotta use those first units as scouts. But go
yeah,
ahead.
they're also a threat. Like if you have two Zerglings wandering out in the field, they're not going to be wandering around trying to pick off your overlords with Marines. And if they do, you're going to be able to jump on it maybe.
It gets rid of
Okay.
that scout SCV also very quickly.
Yeah.
You don't want the Terran to have any knowledge of what you're doing. You want them to think maybe he's even baneling busting me if you can. So
Okay.
it pays to kill it early. And again, on this attack, if you would have put the spine crawlers a bit sooner, it would have been helpful. If you just go ahead and start one spine crawler at least right away, it's very helpful. And once again, if you had that third queen here,
It probably would have defended it earlier.
it would have just helped you a bit more. It might not have helped defend perfectly. Also, losing that overlord was not too good.
No, it supply blocked me.
Yeah.
And you did have speedlings, which was a very good combination against it. But once again, if you'd seen the factory and the Hellions early with the reactor, you could have went maybe just 3 roaches. And the nice thing about that is you can even use them to pressure me.
So then I probably should have sent this Overlord Scout in like 2 minutes ago.
Yep. That way you'll see the whole tank marine tech earlier, or even the Hellion tech. A lot of times if they go Hellion, they even go dropship. So you gotta watch out for that too.
Also,
Alright.
creep spreading on your front. This is really important, particularly on this position. It's
Yeah,
getting that
close
creep out
positions,
there.
definitely. And if you had that third queen, that would be a lot easier. A lot easier. And so a couple things I find here. You have a great. Let's go ahead and pause. 3, 2, 1, pause. I love your saturation. It's very hard to teach Zergs that you need this many drones. Like right now, at both your main and your natural, you have, I believe, 16 drones on minerals.
Yep.
That's a good amount. That's what you want. If you have more, that's fine. But especially close positions, you don't want to get too many. So that's really good. But against this sort of early aggression too, you might want to cut a little bit. Like I can't believe I'm saying cut drones, but just make sure you have a good army composition. Even throw down a third hatchery when you have this many drones.
Okay.
And even if you have this much minerals and you see an early push, just throw down 10 spine crawlers. It's better than dying. It's
Alright.
better than losing the expansion to just throw down 10 spine crawlers, you know?
Yeah.
Versus tanks, obviously, it's a little bit harder to do. Against this composition, of course, a big thing that I tell people, if you have a lot of these speedlings, it's really good to keep them outside of your base. And then whenever I do push in, you can kind of come from behind with them, and then just obviously bring banelings or whatever zerglings left you have in your main just to attack, and it turns into a flank.
Yeah, I actually mentioned this a lot in the cast, is you treated that ramp as though it was your friend, and that ramp is not your friend. That ramp is a choke, and basically that's what Terrans like. They love chokes on Zerg. Zerg likes wide open spaces where they can come from every angle.
Yep.
Don't treat the ramp as though it's going to protect you, because it's not. It's going to hurt your mobility. It's going to more or less, like, let's pretend Sheth actually did a little bit more of an aggressive position and had his siege tanks a little bit forward. The Zerglings and had a dropship nearby for top scouting, which a lot of Terran will do. Every single one of those Zerglings would have been dead before it even got to your natural, because you would have been running up and down that ramp. And I think you did that a lot, where really they would have been more effective. Even if you don't have them right here, if you have them somewhere towards the middle of the map, works great. Or even better yet, kind of in between to catch any reinforcements headed that direction, works pretty well. Let's send, he's starting to attack your natural expansion, then you can bring them in. And essentially what happens is you'll have the advantage of target acquisition, because the Marines are now attacking something out there, like maybe the hatchery, maybe the assimilator, the extractor, maybe the spine crawler, that means they're not attacking your Zerglings. Or better yet, siege tanks are caught from behind, you're on top of the siege tanks. It's always better to have the Zerglings kind of at an off position rather than just attacking head on.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Very true. And once again, if you had like a third hatch up here, you'd get a bunch more. And if you had a third hatch up, you could even use that third queen to spit there for more larvae.
Okay.
Just a few other things. And against a very strong Hellion Marine early timing, like against this, it's very hard to come up with a counter. I think Roach Baneling and Zergling would be a pretty good counter against this, especially if they get Blue Flame with the Hellions. So just something to think about. Even Mutiling, Baneling would be okay against this.
Do you have any reason? Sorry to interrupt, but do you have any reason why my minerals are up so high? Like I feel like I'm always like I never have camping larvae, and I don't know why it's so. And I feel like I'm not missing too many spawn larvas. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe I am because my queen's up to 56, but.
Well, one thing you can notice is if you think you have too many minerals, you can take both your gases earlier.
Okay.
That's one thing. The other thing is you're getting supply blocked a little bit every once in a while, I think. So here's what I do to make sure I make overlords. When you spit, I call it spit, but it's really spawn larva, I guess.
Yeah.
Every time you have 4 larvae drop down, and you go ahead and click on your hatch and you see 4 larvae, try and make one of those 4 into an overlord.
Okay.
Especially late game when the other 3 are going to be either roaches or mutas or something that's 2 supply. That way, that takes care of that supply and you're ready for the next round.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And that even covers the larvae that you use in between. Because, there'll be 1 or 2 larvae in between the next drop of 4 larvae. So that'll help cover that too.
Oh, okay.
And especially against this sort of early attack, make sure you morph a few banelings back a bit so they're not just up front, and I can just pick on them a bit too, which you did. That was good.
I think I got banelings too late, but
Yeah,
it's all good.
No worries.
Ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. And so here, obviously, use this ramp. There's no reason that you need to attack it. I'm not even hurting you up there. I'm just kind of chilling.
I think honestly, I didn't even see you go up there. Like as bad as that is, like I was literally taking those Zerglings to go try to attack you, like a kind of scout / attack, I guess you would say.
Okay.
But like I didn't even know you were up there. As terrible as that was.
It's all good. I was kind of talking about here, but
like
right here,
behind you then.
And this is here where you start using the ramp. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what should I have done then? I should have took those Zerglings out and went behind you, perhaps? Okay.
Definitely kept the Zerglings out. Like Diggity was saying, pick up any reinforcements while you're still macroing from the other 2 to 3 hatches. Get a bunch of Zerglings, a bunch of Banelings. I liked how you have your Banelings on a different hotkey this time. That's just what you want to do. And make sure you move command them into the Marines. Because whenever they die, they explode. And that way it keeps them all from just instantly exploding, which is pretty crummy.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So that works out pretty good.
And here's where the ramp is also. I harped on that a lot in my cast.
If you see a Terran spread like this, like where you see all my Marines are spaced out, it's very hard to attack into that. Like very, very hard to attack into that. So just make sure you have a lot of Zerglings. A lot of Zerglings against that.
It is fun to use these infested Marines against that, though.
Yeah. Like right here, if you play it right, I'm pretty sure you could take this down pretty easily.
Also, creep spread also isn't helping you.
Yeah.
Sheth was taking down stuff for that, but yeah.
So let's go ahead and pause. 3, 2, 1, pause. I'm pretty sure we've gotten everything out of this replay we can. So right now it's just going to be me harassing your Zerglings, and that won't happen in a normal game. I liked how you got your Overseer. You didn't really get to use it too much, but that's okay.
Also, I actually think see these Zerglings you took to the south? I think if you had actually taken them and attacked that from behind, even though the tanks are kind of out of a weird position because of the way the Marines are spread, you would have done a decent amount of damage with it. And the tanks probably would have started splashing the Marines because of just the way the target acquisition was working.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So
very true.
Anyway.
All right, so that's it for this replay.
Thank you for letting me sit in, Sheth and Blackjack.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And hopefully the YouTube comments will be kind. Yeah,
I'm sure they will be.
GosuCoaching.com, guys, if you want to check it out. And Sheth in particular, thank you for letting me sit in. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for listening.